Voices, they call my name, echo truth but not the same. A shared refrain, voices of experience remain. They call my name, echo truth but not the same. A shared refrain, voices of experience remain.
A breeze that tells a story slow, of seeds we plant, of trees.
My name is Dr. Loveness Mabhunu. I was born and raised from Zimbabwe in Africa. And I grew up in a loving family. African people are family oriented. So we grew up in a village with my family. And I moved to USA when I got a Fulbright scholarship to study in USA. I graduated with a PhD in Humanities and Women's Studies at Clark, Atlanta, Georgia. And I worked as an assistant professor in Zimbabwe, at the University of Zimbabwe, and also at Georgia Piedmont Technical College, teaching history, religious studies, women's studies. And I moved to Canada sometime in 2019. And here in Canada, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I'm an educator, a consultant, a coach, a mental health advocate, hosting a podcast, Mental Health Matters. Should I stay in my homeland or should I go? I decided to immigrate to the diaspora for opportunities. In my situation, I had won a Fulbright scholarship to start for my PhD. So because of the greener pastures, I decided to move. However, living here in the Western world, the experiences I'm going through, I feel like in my senior year, I might not retire here because home is always home. It's always the best. Home is always the best. There are a lot of things with cultural differences, culture shock, and the life trace that you always perceive if you were home, your life could be better. Sometimes you may have better opportunities, but you may feel lonely in a setting where you are. Yes, there are people, there are friends, but because of the setup of the Western society on individualism and independence, is different from the African and Caribbean culture, which is communal centered. We are family oriented. If I'm home, if I don't have any food in my house, I'll not lack food. I'll not go hungry because of the communal village. My family, friends will feed me. But if I'm here, if I don't have money, sometimes if my friends or people around me do not have enough resources, I may go hungry. You see a lot of people out there, the homeless, they don't have shelter. So because of all these concepts, when I retire, for me personally, it's always best to go home. There are some days when I get sick, lonely by myself. And I'm even afraid if I faint or collapse, If my door is locked, what would I do? Who would go to open the door for me? But if I'm home, mostly when I grew up, we always have people in the house. You are not alone all the time. The historical and psychological impact of immigration among African and Black people is rooted into the transatlantic slavery that actually affected Black people. During the transatlantic slavery, people were forced to move. They were being discriminated, they were being marginalized, they were being ill-treated, and it affected them psychologically that mostly they end up with racial trauma that carried with them. And it became intergenerational trauma because it was passed on from generation to generation, from first, second, third generations. And even today, we are living with the same concept and the same problem. The discrimination that Black people went through, the racism that they went through, that they could not even have the chances to build generational wealth because of systemic barriers that deter them to have the opportunities or access to resources and wealth. Today, most people from Africa and the Caribbeans, they are willingly migrating to the diaspora, to Western countries, because mostly they want a better life or they want greener pastures, different opportunities that they are moving here. But still, the psychological and historical aspect carries us through the same thing. Why? When we come here, the treatment we have is different as well. We face systemic barriers that are preventing us from success. Some are successful, yes, but some are facing issues in terms of jobs, opportunities, in terms of educational, in terms of healthcare disparity, in terms of housing. So you find, let me give you an example. You have medical doctors from Africa. When they migrate to Western countries, they cannot go just straight into a medical facility or a hospital and start working as a medical doctor. They are being told that you need to write boards to be certified as a medical doctor. You can't operate as a medical doctor, but professionally, you are already qualified with a lot of experience. And you find that Western medical doctors, when they go to Africa or the Caribbeans for what mostly they would use terms like missionary work or doctors across borders, they go straight into the African hospital or Caribbean hospital and start working as a medical doctor or operating Black people. They are not even asked about their credentials. They are not even asked to write boards, but they can. So you see all these kind of systemic barriers that are preventing Black people to have those opportunities. Psychologically, it affects them. They end up having depression. They end up having anxiety. They end up having trauma, and mostly racial trauma, because they cannot function normally. It's the historical economic struggle that persists among the Africans and Caribbean people somewhat, rooted in colonialism. To me personally, I would say yes. The historical economic struggle is connected to colonialism. When we go back to history during the transatlantic slavery for the Caribbeans, colonialism for the African people and segregation. Black people were denied generating wealth. They were working for free labor. They were denied wages. And they were working petty jobs. And we see that being carried even up to today. We still have the impact of colonialism among Black people. They are discriminated in terms of employment. For example, if a Black person and a white person goes for an interview, sometimes you find even if the Black person has higher qualifications, they may be denied the job because of the systemic barriers, the institutions that prevent them to have access to better jobs, to have access to generate the wealth. So yes, in somewhat I would say it's rooted and it still carries on. We still have post-colonialism going on. However, on another note, I would also say as African and Caribbean people, our mindset really affects us. We were racially traumatized for a long time, that our mindset was socialized to think otherwise, that sometimes we want to be dependent on the institutions instead of aspiring to do better, to do businesses for us. Even when there's an opportunity, the mindset is geared that I have to work for someone, to be an employee. I have to look for a job and I have to service someone and not do it myself. And going back to our countries in terms of economy, our leaders, we are now independent per se, as we say. Some of it, yes, we blame it to colonialism and our history of how we were treated, marginalized, not given opportunities. But our leaders, some of our leaders in African countries and Caribbean countries, they are engaged in corruption, greedy. And then they are preventing the growth of the economy in our countries. So we also have a part that we are playing. Africa, Caribbean islands, we have a lot of resources. All these watches that we are wearing, the gold. If we have the mindset to build Africa, to build the Caribbean countries, we have the resources economically. We can build our countries and have better opportunities and better wealth. Because right now, historically, and what we were socialized to, the breadwinners, the educational people are moving, migrating from our countries. We are coming here with all our education and experience to make the other countries grow economically. And we are draining our African and Caribbean countries with the resources, with our input and education. The impact of divestment and investment among Black communities. Investment, you are investing to grow wealth, to get returns in future, be it stocks, bonds, be it businesses. Divestment, you are taking out the money and go spend it somewhere. It has a huge impact among the Black communities. Like I said as well before, the socialization we had historically affected us intergenerationally up to now. We were socialized to work and to spend money. We were denied wages before. We mostly, the wages we are getting, if we are getting these low wage jobs, we don't have enough money. So we believe that we have to spend paycheck to paycheck. But financial literacy is lacking among the Black communities. We don't have financial education. Most of us don't know how to invest money. Most of us, we don't even want to learn about finance. So we don't know how to generate our wealth. If you go to Black communities to talk about investments, sometimes with the stereotypes of what we went through, they may think, if I invest, I don't know if I'll still have access to my money. You talk about insurance, because the problem is traditionally, people were taught about traditional insurance versus universal insurance that we have today. So when people hear about insurance, they always think about the term insurance, that maybe if I invest my money, after 10, 20 years, I'll lose my money. But they don't know that today we also have universal insurance, we have whole insurance that can accumulate your wealth and give you capital gains. So that's one thing that we need for Black communities to know, that yes, we can also build wealth through the right channel, through the right resources, through the right information. Divestment, mostly when we spend our paycheck to paycheck for someone's business, we are generating wealth for those people. And most of us are afraid to engage in businesses, and we spend our money outside. Most of us, we like so much to buy the designers, the Gucci. We see the Nike, we see the shoes, and that money we are spending it for someone, and we spend it all, not save anything, not think about, like here in Canada, we also have like TFSA, RRSP, FHSA, that you can actually invest your money and grow the money for your future and the future of your generations. The psychological impact of the Black community's spending, especially buying the designers, is rooted in our history, because for centuries and for a long time, we were denied that opportunity to have access to the Gucci, the watches, the gold, nice stuff. So now, because we are now free to have that opportunity to buy those things. So psychologically, it's like an appeasement that I feel happy when I have that design, be it a shoe, a handbag, or clothes. So it's like an appeasement for us that I can buy it now. Look, I can wear the gold watch now. I can have it all. And we spend more and more and more and more and more. And if you come, sometimes you come in our closets, you find there's plenty and plenty, because we were lacking and we were denied to have access of those. But now I have the opportunity, and I can grab and spend more. the lasting effects of slavery among Black people is the psychological impact, the racial trauma that we carried out for years, the socialization based on our cultural identity that we are always here to save someone most of the time. So that impacts psychologically on us. For example, in our Black communities, I give an example for like Africa. We were raised that we go to school, you get educated. After you graduate, what do? You look for a job. Meaning you are going to work for someone. And historically, that's what we had when our forefathers, our ancestors were taken to work into the plantains, to work into the factories. Today is the same thing. You find mostly African, Caribbean immigrants when they come, most of the jobs they get before they get like work permits is going to work in the warehouses, going to work in the factories. So we were not socialized that after you graduate, you can start a business so that you can have financial freedom, so that you can also build your own wealth. So that mindset affected us psychologically, even to die. We are discriminated in workplaces. We are laid off in workplaces. And when we are laid off in workplaces, what do? We cry and we look for another job. And like I said before, our mindset is geared towards that channel. Sometimes we don't think that, okay, I lost a job. It's painful. But can I use this opportunity to think about starting my own business? And also, among Black communities, we have a problem that if we see our brother or sister with a business, I can pass by, if it's a grocery store, I'll pass by that store to go to Walmart, which I'm not saying it's wrong. We go to buy and leave my African, Caribbean, or Black person's shop. We don't support Black businesses. And then economically, financially, we don't grow. So we need this education and awareness among us to change that perspective. Yes, there are systemic barriers, but if we also put an effort, support our businesses, we can grow and we can also generate wealth among ourselves and for our families. So this mindset for us Black people not supporting each other is rooted from our history. That during the colonialism and slavery, we were socialized not to trust each other, to hate each other, and to not consider ourselves as worthy, as less capable to do better. Slavery and colonialism divided us. And even today, we still have the impact that we are divided. We are not united. So it's difficult for me to support my brother or my sister. I would rather go and support someone else's business than ourselves. So that mindset, we need to decolonize our minds and trust ourselves and support each other. If someone is even thinking about doing a business, we can even come together and say, okay, you need capital. Okay, we can put like little, and then help another brother or sister. We go and do the same thing to another. And if we do it among ourselves, we can do better. Based on the socialization culturally, based on the identity of who we are. So our way of thinking is different and historically based on how we were taught, how we were educated. For example, when I grew up in schools, when we were learning history, we were studying history about Hitler, Mussolini, and not much about our African people. So we were already educated to think along that line, to marginalize ourselves and think of ourselves as if we are not worthy. This mentality's impact on the Black family, the mindset or mentality has a huge impact on the Black families. Today, we have a lot of single-handed households because sometimes you see a lot of our young men are being raised by single mothers because dad is not home. And there are so many reasons why the fathers are not home. Some of them, and most of them, they are incarcerated. They are in jails and are not available to provide for their families. Again, caused by all these systemic barriers that prevent them to be home and take care of their families. Some of them have committed crime, but there are also some who are incarcerated without a crime. And we have mothers with their children to raise boys. And in that concept, we need a male figure in the family to teach our young boys how to become a father and protect for their families. But without a male figure, how can we do it? It leaves the mothers to do all this. And then so you see, it keeps on continuing with that kind of mentality. And sometimes our young boys, when they grow up, because of the socialization that they have with their mother, they might not even know how to love a woman or how to take care or support their families. Then we also have another group of fathers who are available but not physically or emotionally because they are not home. They just serve their children, they abandon them, and they decide to go and live on their own and keep on having children everywhere and not supporting them. Because for them, some of them, they have the mentality that, oh, I don't have the enough money or the resources to take care of the children. Then you also have another group of fathers who are available in the house, but they are also lacking because sometimes, for example, some immigrants, they come here, it's difficult to get jobs. If you are in Quebec, you have a language barrier. Like now, if you don't speak French, it might be difficult for you to get a job. So they are there, but they don't have enough resources to take care of their families. So it keeps on going on affecting our families. The relationship between Black men and Black women historically, before colonialism and slavery, African people were family oriented, collective, communal. Children belonged to a communal village. Children were raised by the whole village. They were not belonging to one parent. So, with that concept of collective identity, they grew up knowing that family is important for them. But when we had colonialism and slavery, the culture diverted because we were taught about individualism, autonomy, and independence. So it affects even the relationship between Black men and Black female. That today we have so many divorces, single-handed family, because even for women, we think we are now independent. We can live our own life. Sometimes we think we don't need men. Sometimes we think we are educated and we are enough. And it's easy for us to divert. And you find also the cultures we have now, they support more women as compared to men. For example, today, if I just call the police right now and say, this guy is doing this something or is hitting me, or even if the guy did not hit me, when the police come, they just take them. That's why I said already before, there are some men who are incarcerated. Some of them, they committed crime, but some of them, they did not commit crime. So it's dividing us. It's difficult for us, even for some people, to love our Black men or trust them. The impact that's being caused on our generational wealth of individualism, speaking of generational wealth, the impact is mostly we remain in poverty for most families. Because we don't have the resources, or because of the system that doesn't allow us to have better opportunities. So we keep on raising our generation from generation to generation to generation in the same system. We retire at age 65 with nothing. I've seen the impact already, because when I moved to the Western world, one day, the first day I rode in a bus, there were grandmothers and grandfathers, 70 and above, in the bus in the morning. And I asked my friend, what are they doing now? They are past the retire age. And she said they are going to work. So those are some of the impact that even after retiring, most of us, we still work. Why? Because we don't have any savings. So we need to eat. We need to pay bills. We keep on working. Because some of us, we didn't do any investments that will give us returns, that will give us income protection when we retire. So the trend keeps on going and going and going. It affects the single-handed families. Because you have one parent in the house. And by single-handed parents, you find also today, there are also men who are raising children by themselves. So it's no longer only women raising children by themselves. There are also men who are now raising children on themselves. So the a single household homes, because they have only one parent with the paycheck, that might not be enough for some to take care of the family. They might not have enough for savings. So that means that generation will not have wealth generated for them. The parents may die and leave nothing for the children. And the children, some of them, like for example, might not even have enough to pay tuition fee for their children. And they end up not going to school. They end up not having even business opportunities. So financially, we are deprived. As for the solution, when we talk about generational wealth, my perspective is based on awareness, financial literacy among Black communities, because we definitely lack that. To know that we can also have opportunities, especially when we talk of investments, especially knowing about what can give us multi-handed income as to single-handed income. Because when you have single-handed income, it means you are working for a job, maybe for someone. When you are laid off, you don't have any pay coming. When you retire, that's the end of it until you get maybe government pension. And there's a time where it will end. But if you have multi-handed income, it means it's generated sometimes even after your retirement, especially let's say if you have a business, your money still comes on. So we need that kind of education among us. And we also have to have that mentality of not being dependent syndrome, depending on the system to do things for us. And know that we can do it as well. Use the opportunities, find help. And for Black communities, if someone is doing a business, we need to support them. That communal village that we used to have before, that collectiveness that we used to have before, break the barrier of individualism that you think you are the only one who has to be better than your brother or your sister. Let's do it collectively. Let's grow together. Let's generate wealth together, because if it does for my brother or sister, it means it's for the rest of our community. For those Black people who have businesses, hire your people. Teach them the opportunities of how you get to where you are. Because sometimes in our communities, if I get an opportunity, if someone will ask me, how did you do it? I'll say, it's not easy. It's not easy, yeah. It's difficult, but I managed. And we don't give the information of how I get there, because I don't want my brother or sister to succeed. I just want to be the only person. If I'm getting an award, I'm happy and not thinking about my community. So if we go back to the drawing board and change our mentality and support each other as Black people, and also support our programs, support our businesses, that can help us. It can help us to decolonize our mentality. We are the most educated people with the highest IQ. But let's not allow the stereotypes to affect us, to think that we are not intelligent or we are not worthy, and not also to use our historical mentality, socialization, trauma to divide us, but to be united. Divided we fall, but united we stand. Do I think there is hatred among Black people caused by the trauma? For sure, there is hatred among Black people, especially in this century. We don't have that sense of love that we had culturally before. Sometimes I don't want to see my people to succeed. Because of individualism, it has to be me. Sometimes I don't want to celebrate my sister or brother when they achieve better goals. I hate, because of individualism, it should be me. We are lacking that concept culturally of that Ubuntuism. I am because we are, you are because I am. So you can even see it in crime, in killing, that Black people, we are killing each other. We are committing crime. We are not supporting each other. for those like with non-governmental programs, sometimes you find they go out there for other nationalities and leave their own people. Social media is the worst, dividing us, perpetrating hatred. Do you know sometimes we feel not comfortable to be known that I come from Zimbabwe, to be known that I come from Africa. One day I was surprised at school. I came alone. I was lonely because I didn't meet any people from my country who would understand me culturally, whom I can speak my own language. One day, I met a group of 5 young boys. So because they are my color, I was so excited. So I greeted them, "Hi, how are you, brothers?" And I said, "What's your name?" One of them tried to twist the name to say Farai, Farai. I said, Farai, definitely that name is a Zimbabwean name. So I said, "Oh," with excitement, "you are from Zimbabwe?" He said, "No, I'm from South Africa." He was not proud of his own identity. He didn't want to be associated because of what's happening in the country economically, the issues that has been on social media, that is being talked on the news every day during that time. So he didn't want to be known that he's from Zimbabwe. So we are losing that sense of belonging and this sense of identity, and it's affecting us. What happened to us to have all this disorientation, disintegration in our families is because of the teachings we adopted through the Western culture of individualism, aspiring to be autonomy. We forgot our roots of our culture. For example, historically, African people, if you have wealth, it was not wealth for an individual or for a particular family, but it was wealth for the whole village. And by then, wealth sometimes was not money, because money, it came with colonialism, especially in Africa. They had their own cattle, sheep, goats, agricultural products they were growing. And they had their own wealth like that. And if they had it, it would feed the family and the extended family and feed the whole village. But now, when the concept of money and wealth came, we diverted because we adopted to identify with our masters, the way of living. And now when I get it, I think it's for me. If I don't do it for charity, I may not give it to my brother or to my sister. So it had a huge impact on us. It affected us. And for some people, that's what we know. We don't know otherwise. Especially you take someone who has the generation, the African Americans, the Canadian Americans, they don't know about any other culture. They've never been to Africa. They were born and raised here with the culture. And this is what they know. Some of them, you can't blame them because they don't know anyhow. They don't carry, like most of them. What are their last names? If you are Smith, it's your master's name. In Africa, we all have these traditional names like Mabhunu, like Nyanda. But African Americans, Canadian Americans, what names do they have? Their master's name. So it means if you are carrying your master's name, it means you were raised in that context to carry the master's culture, to carry the master's values, to carry the master's traits. And that's what you know. So that's what happened. That's what I think happened. Is there any danger of immigration from Africa and the Caribbeans to the Western world? Culturally speaking, yes, there's a lot of danger in terms of disorientation and disintegration of families. And also the values. We are even learning different traits, and our belief system sometimes is changed. It's wired that we value the Western culture. Most of us are indoctrinated that we forget about our roots. We raise our children here, not the African or the Caribbean way. Our children can speak back to us. You ask them or you tell them to do something, they'll ask you why. They say they have their rights, so they can say anything. If you try even to discipline them, they'll feel like you are disrespecting me, I have my rights. Or they can call police for you, and the police will come grab you. When we grew up the African way, we were taught to respect our parents and never to talk back to our parents. We were taught to speak with respect. Not that we're taught to be silent, no. African culture is not silent. Even for women, they were not taught to be silent, but the approach, the respect. And we lose that concept. And it's becoming dangerous for our families now. It's difficult to raise children here, for sure. A lot of children with peer pressure, most of them, they end up having problems like drug abuse, drop out from schools. And for parents, it's now difficult. And also the danger of immigration as well, dividing us with our Black people back home because of the concept and the mentality of what we are getting here. Sometimes we don't value our African descent brothers and sisters sometimes we condemn what they are doing. We condemn our culture because we are now having, like what Du Bois says, double consciousness, the double socialization, the Western socialization and the African socialization. And some of it is brainwashing us and colonize our minds that we don't think and act like African people. Sometimes we are denying ourselves, denying who we are, because sometimes I want to fit in. I'm an outsider within, and I want to fit in, and I forget who I am and try to act otherwise. Do I think that love in our families is not love? In most families, we don't know the concept of love anymore. We don't know what love is because sometimes I just love me only. Because sometimes when our children go to school, they are taught about loving themselves, self-care, that when they come back home, they are different people. You hear most of the children saying to their parents when they are trying to correct them, they'll say, I hate you. They don't know love. They don't know the value of that parent because they think some of them, when they grow up, they think they can take care of themselves and don't need their parents. So that concept is distorting within our families. They say charity begins at home or love begins at home. So if a child grows in that concept in the family where they don't know love, where we don't act showing love, how do you expect that child to behave out there? If they don't know love, how do they show love to someone? African people, we are loving people. Our grandparents, when I grew up, they would actually sit us down a palaver, teaching us what love is, teaching us to love other people regardless. I remember when I grew up, my grandfather was a chief. So all the people, the discriminated people, the crippled people, the hungry people would come to our house. Even if they come at the middle of the night, my grandmother and grandfather would wake us up to say, we have a visitor. Wake up, make firewood, and cook for them in the middle of the night. And they were saying, do not ill-treat other people. Do not marginalize or discriminate anyone regardless of their class, even race or gender. Treat everyone because they are all human beings. Love them regardless of their status. But that concept is lacking today. If I see someone having problems on the sideway, instead of me helping, what do? I take a video to post on social media. Look at what I'm seeing here. You see men and wife fighting, beating, maybe beating to death. I've seen one video on social media and I asked the same question. This person is being beaten to death and people are busy taking videos instead of stopping the fight. What happens that it become now a laughing stock instead of stopping and helping each other? So we are now lacking that concept of love and it distorting our families. It's distorting the collectiveness. Thus, it's now difficult for us to support and love one another. What is anti-Black racism and its impact on Black community? Anti-Black racism is a form of racism rooted in slavery, colonialism, directed on people of African descent. And it's actually based on racial prejudices, the marginalization, the ill treatment among people of African descent. It has a huge impact at different levels: institutional level, individual, and collective based on policies. So at individual level, it's based on the racial prejudices, the racial profiling that is seeing Black people as if they are dangerous, they are lazy, they are less intelligent. And then by that, it's also causing racial trauma on the Black people, which leads to depression, which leads to anxiety, which leads sometimes to stress. And also it has the impact that even among us, mental health is a challenge and become a stigma for us because of the society with the racial profiling. If I'm facing those mental health challenges, because sometimes we think if I have depression or anxiety, if I openly say it out or seek help, I think I might be considered as crazy. And then I would rather keep quiet, bottle it in, and suffer. So it's a huge toll on us, especially in Black communities. At institutional level, anti-Black racism is affecting in jobs, healthcare facilities, schools. You find that our Black students in schools, they are considered by some teachers to have lower IQ. They are racially prejudiced, and most of them, they are easily put into special education because they are not seen fit or capable. They are not seen worthy to be enrolled in STEM program, the science technology, because they are considered as less intelligent. In terms of also the policies, you find there are the systemic issues that prevents us to have access to housing, healthcare disparity, employment. Those systems are set that. And also, like we said, sometimes you find it hard also for generational wealth because of our color. So there was a movement that was begun by Black people in 2013 called Black Lives Matter. It was actually rooted against anti-Black racism based on the police violence, the killings of Black people. And we face it on daily basis. What can we do about it? I always believe in collectiveness, support, love one another. If Black people, we come together to fight or resolve it collectively, it works better than an individual. Because sometimes if we follow these systems that were put in place, you find us that we as Black people, we are put in those systems to marginalize our own people. Do I believe that there is social engineering and it has an impact of anti-Black racism? Yes, because racial, gender, and class profiles are socially constructed. It's part of the social engineering that defines people. That you are Black, you are white, you are brown, you are male, you are female, you are rich, you are poor. These are socially constructed. And because they are socially constructed, they have the traits of the socialization that gives the values that how do you behave as a male, how do you behave. The society demarcates what you do, how you behave, and what's supposed to be done. If you do otherwise, you are against this concept. So it's a problem. So it has a huge impact, especially when we talk about anti-Black racism, because the society expects Black people to behave in a different way than other nationalities. Mostly to be if you look at the social construction, you find even historically, Black people were always put at the bottom. It's a social construction. We are all human beings despite color. What do they do that I can't do if it was not for my skin? But we are always at the bottom. And sometimes it's difficult for us even to climb up because we are always, you find that sometimes Black people, they do so well. They climb up to the ladder. But the end result, they go back. In terms of finances, for example, you find they become wealth, all these sports guys, they get millions, but at the end of the day, they come down, they lose it all. They don't have that wealth for their generations and generations. Some of them lose it all. Few of them, yes, they'll manage. So these are socially constructed and put for systems, and it's affecting especially Black communities. The effects of slavery among Black communities today. Slavery has a huge impact among Black communities due to the oppression that we went through, the discrimination, the marginalization, the ill treatment that has effects of racial trauma, oppression, losing our sense of belonging, losing our sense of identity, losing our collective identity, carrying the individualistic autonomy independent concept that led us to lose the communal village and Ubunduism. And it affects our Black families, our culture, especially when I look at the way I perceive a Black man and a Black woman today. For most of us, we lack that brotherly, sisterly love. In terms of relationship, some of us, we don't know love anymore. And we don't know how to show love anymore. That's why you find there are a lot of divorces. There are a lot of single households, families today, of parents raising children on their own, which we can't even teach love as well. Because sometimes if I am a mother without a father, even if I have a son, I'm just teaching them, don't do like your father. Don't do. And some of the mothers or fathers who are single-handed, we prevent our children to see their parents. We are bringing the bridge, the barrier. And then we lose that concept of family-oriented, and we are raising people culturally with the wrong mentality of not knowing love, not knowing support, and not knowing to care for one another. Men are not even, some of them, there to provide for their families, be it brother, sister, or children. There are some, when they have children, they abandon them based on different reasons. They are not in jail, but they are there. But they are not supporting their families. We have highest rates of domestic violence in our Black communities caused by men beating women, ill-treating them, abusing them. Then there are some men who do not even love their own brother, a Black man. Hatred, jealousy. They don't want to support them. They want to be the only ones at the upper top, and they don't want to support their brother. They don't want their brother to succeed like them. These are some of the impacts that we have in our communities. Talking about women, we don't have, mostly some of women do not have that sisterhood to love and care for their own sisters. sometimes they would prefer to relate to other nationalities or to support other nationalities and not support their own sister. We lose that also concept of loving our brothers as Afrikaner people who are family oriented. Some women will feel okay and comfortable to live on their own in their houses. And sometimes we also instigate what our brothers are going through because we are not supporting them. The system might bring barriers, but sometimes we also bring an additional of the barrier of not loving our brothers or not loving our sisters. And mind you, I talked about domestic violence. It's not only the men abusing and beating women. In this 21st century, there are also women that are beating and abusing men. Before, people were not talking about it because of stigmatization. And especially even today, there are some men who are facing abuse, but because of the society, they are not open to talk about it. They bottle it in. But there are sisters also, women who abuse men. We lack that love, that collectiveness, that communication. I believe whenever there are issues in our homes, in our relationship as men and women, if we communicate about those issues in a respectful manner, the approach is always important because we all have to voice our own views, but the approach you use is most important. So I encourage Black communities to go back to the drawback of communal, village, and collective identity, to show love to one another, to support one another. Black History Month, to me, Black History Month is dedicated as a month in February in Canada and USA to celebrate the Black history of people of African descent from slavery, colonialism, to talk about what happened to them, to remember about our ancestors and forefathers, but also to celebrate our achievements and success. In my own perspective, when I look at the way we do Black History Month, most of the time we engage in forums, webinars, or events where we gather Black people and talk about history, culture, and about where we are right now. Sometimes I ask myself, do we even have Black history? Do we have that history? Are our children, this generation of young children, do they even know our history? Sometimes we celebrate Black history among the seniors, the elderly, and we don't involve our children, that sometimes they don't even know our history. They know the history that they are being taught today in schools. Not about Black people. They don't even know that there are Black people who started a university in Timbuktu or who were even involved in engineering and making an aeroplane. They are taught about other nationalities' history, heroes, and not know. So what is there about Black history? In my perspective, when we do these, say maybe forums or webinars, why don't we do it from the grassroots? Include our children to teach them about our history. You see, for example, in Quebec, they have the Bill 96 for French because they don't want to lose the identity of French. So people in Quebec have to speak French even if you are a foreigner. They don't want to lose their culture. They want to preserve it. But as Black people, what are we doing to preserve our culture, our history in our communities and in our families? My perspective of Black history is not about awards, giving awards, which is not wrong because we have to celebrate our achievement. But in my context, we also need to go into our communities to those people who are poor, who are lacking resources, the marginalized people who don't have anything during the months of Black history to give them food, clothes. Let's have a session or an event for Black history where we gather those people, provide for them, sit with them, talk to them, understand what they are going through, what they need, and rally together. The money we are putting maybe for a bigger event, we can put that money to help our brothers and sisters who are suffering. To me, that's my concept of Black History Month. It's not about celebrating the success and successful people who we celebrate over and over and over and over each year and forgetting the people who are in need. Let's be inclusive of the have and the have-nots in our Black communities and do it collectively. The progress for Black history. To me, the progress for Black history, especially having the month where we celebrate and showcase our culture, gather together as Black people if we have those opportunities during our events and forums as Black people, just fellowshipping among us, talking about us and our culture, even those hours that we do showing our achievement, because before we never had that opportunity. But now we have the opportunity to celebrate us as Black people. To me, I say it's a progress. It's an achievement that we have a month allocated for it. But what would I want to see, or what are the solutions? For me personally, the solutions is based on the policy makers, the changes with the policies that has to be inclusive for Black people, that would break the systemic barriers that preventing Black people to have access to resources, to succeed in the communities, to have us as Black people to rally behind each other collectively and work together as like other nationalities are doing, which we are already doing. But if we can go a step ahead in what we are doing collectively to come up with programs that will help us not to lose our history, our culture, our identity, even have sessions among us where we can teach our children about history so that we won't lose our history, because the generations coming may not even know our history because it's fading away. Even as Black communities, in our families, in our households, if we can talk about our history to our children so that they know who they are, where they came from, because that concept is losing in our families. That will be the most great thing I would see if we can do that during the Black History Month. My name is Dr. Loveness Mabhunu. This has been an episode of Voices of Experience.
Voices, they call my name, echo truth but not the same. A shared refrain, voices of experience remain. They call my name, echo truth but not the same. A shared refrain, voices of experience remain.
A breeze that tells a story slow, of seeds we plant, of trees that grow. Drumbeats hum beneath the skin, where wisdom ends, life will begin.
The sky bends low, the stars lean in. The truth we find is where we've been.